Everyone loves the idea of a clean slate. New Year's Eve is sold to us as a moment where the past shuts its mouth and the future politely waits its turn. But on January 1st, 2023, that promise collapsed inside a quiet home in Massachusetts. While most people were waking up with headaches, half-remembered countdowns, and text messages they barely recalled sending, Anna Walshe stopped existing in the world as anyone knew it. No goodbye. No explanation. No trace. What followed wasn't a dramatic whodunit, but something far more unsettling, a slow realization that something terrible had likely happened behind closed doors. Anna Walshe was not someone who lived quietly or invisibly. She was a senior real estate executive, deeply involved in high-level work that required constant communication, planning, and accountability. She was also a mother, managing family life alongside a demanding career that regularly took her between Massachusetts and Washington, D.C. People who knew her described her as sharp, driven, and structured, the kind of person who didn't miss flights or vanish without telling someone where she was going. When a person like that suddenly disappears, it isn't mysterious in a romantic sense. It's alarming. On New Year's Eve, Anna was reportedly at home in Cohasset, Massachusetts, with her husband, Brian Walshe, and a friend. It was not a loud party or a chaotic gathering, just a small, controlled celebration marking the end of the year. According to Brian, the night ended normally, and Anna left the house early the next morning for a sudden work trip to Washington, D.C. He said she needed to be at the airport before sunrise and left quickly. On its own, that story sounded plausible. But true crime is rarely about one explanation. It's about what happens when that explanation meets reality. Investigators immediately began checking the details that would normally support such a story. Flights were checked. Rideshare records were reviewed. Credit card activity was examined. Phone data was analyzed. And that's where the story started to fall apart. There was no evidence Anna ever boarded a flight. No confirmed transportation to the airport. No financial activity after that morning. Her phone went silent. For someone whose life depended on constant digital movement, that kind of disappearance is not accidental. As days passed without any sign of Anna, attention naturally turned toward the person who was last known to have seen her. Brian Walshe maintained his account, insisting she left for work and never came back. But investigators weren't just listening to words, they were building timelines. They tracked movements, store visits, and hours that didn't line up cleanly. When timelines start to show unexplained gaps, suspicion doesn't appear suddenly. It grows. One of the most damaging developments came from surveillance footage. Cameras reportedly showed Brian visiting multiple stores in the days following Anna's disappearance, purchasing cleaning supplies, tools, and other materials. This wasn't a single rushed trip. It appeared deliberate and spaced out, suggesting planning rather than panic. In criminal investigations, repetition matters. One strange purchase might be dismissed. A pattern rarely is. Then there was the digital trail. Prosecutors later alleged that internet searches connected to Brian included questions about cleaning blood, disposing of a body, and how long DNA evidence lasts. On the internet, context is everything. People search odd things all the time, but timing turns curiosity into implication. When searches like that appear immediately after a spouse vanishes, investigators don't see coincidence. They see preparation. Based on the evidence they gathered, investigators concluded that Anna was likely killed inside her home. Blood evidence was reportedly found, and prosecutors argued that her body was dismembered and disposed of in an attempt to erase her completely. Despite extensive searches, Anna's remains have never been recovered. This is one of the most haunting elements of the case. No burial, no remains, just absence. And yet, absence itself can become evidence when nothing else makes sense. At this point, the case stopped being about a missing person and became about a relationship unraveling under pressure. Prosecutors pointed to financial strain and legal issues surrounding Brian, contrasting them with Anna's growing professional success. In many intimate partner crimes, violence isn't driven by rage alone. It's driven by fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear of losing control. Fear of becoming irrelevant. What makes this story especially disturbing is how normal everything looked from the outside. A suburban home. Children. Careers. Holiday decorations still hanging when investigators arrived. There were no obvious warning signs broadcast to the world. That's why cases like this grip public attention so tightly. They challenge the belief that danger always looks dangerous. Sometimes it looks polite, quiet, and domestic. As the legal process moved forward, Brian Walshe pleaded not guilty. The defense argued that the case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and that no body had been found. Prosecutors countered that modern cases are built on patterns, data, and behavior, not just physical remains. Courts don't operate on gut feelings. They operate on whether evidence, taken together, tells a coherent story. Public reaction to the case split sharply. Some people saw the evidence as overwhelming. Others felt uneasy convicting without a body. This tension is common in modern true crime, where digital footprints often speak louder than eyewitnesses. The discomfort people feel isn't just about this case. It's about the realization that certainty is rare, even when tragedy feels obvious. The timing of Anna's disappearance amplified everything. New Year's Day represents hope, renewal, and forward motion. Instead, it became a marker for loss and suspicion. Every anniversary of that date reopens the story, pulling it back into public conversation. Crimes tied to symbolic moments tend to linger longer in the collective memory. When people ask, "Who killed Anna Walshe?" they're asking more than a legal question. They're asking how a relationship reached this point without intervention. They're asking how someone can disappear in a world saturated with cameras and data. And they're asking whether love, once it becomes entangled with control, ever truly stays safe. Anna Walshe did not choose to vanish. Something happened behind closed doors, and whatever the final legal outcome, the silence that followed speaks volumes. This case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about intimacy, power, and the stories we tell ourselves about the people closest to us. It's not just about guilt or innocence. It's about recognition. If stories like this unsettle you, that's not a flaw, it's awareness. This is why the affection scheme exists, to examine how affection can quietly mutate into control, and how control can escalate into tragedy. If you want to understand the patterns before they repeat, subscribe, stay curious, and keep asking the questions that make people uncomfortable. Sometimes, those questions are the only warning signs we get.